I am here with Eskil Vogt, the Oscar-nominated screenwriter behind The Worst Person in the World and the writer and director of the new film The Innocents. Thank you so much for talking with me today. The main characters, the four main characters of The Innocents, are children. I'm curious, did you know from the start that this story would be focused on kids, and what made you want to tell a story like this centered around childhood?
Well, people get the wrong idea when I say this, but I was inspired by my own kids
Mm.
and becoming a father. That doesn't mean that my children are anyway like the kids in the movie or that they
Mm-hmm.
do the same stuff, or what do I know?
Right.
Maybe they do. Well, and I haven't seen any supernatural powers yet, but I'm still hoping. Uh, but no, it just having kids made me curious about childhood because I was reminded how radically different childhood is from
Mm-hmm.
the adult world, it's almost like kids live in a parallel universe that have very few meeting points with the adult world,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to make a movie about the secret world of childhood.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting. I think the most interesting character in the film is Anna, who has autism and is nonverbal, or at least has limited verbal communication. I'm curious what inspired you to include a disabled character like Anna in the story, and what preparation went into bringing Anna to the screen.
Well, she came a little bit later in the process. I'd started to work on this secret world of childhood, the way it's closed up from the adult world. And I read an interview with a Norwegian author. She's called Ulag Nilsen, and she talked in a very open way about her own son who had something she labeled regressive autism. That meant he was developing normally, communicating verbally until he was 3 or 4, and then he just lost gradually his language abilities and just retreated inside his bubble. And for me, as a father, for me that's a horror movie,
Mm-hmm.
because of course if your kid is born with any disability, I would hope I would just accept that kid as he or she is. But if you feel that you're losing your child and that your child is trapped inside his body in some way, it's such a complicated grief. So it just I was completely moved by that, and it just haunted me until the point where I was working on this, and I said to myself, maybe this is part of the story, because what's more closed off and secret than a nonverbal child? It's like perfect for that kind of thematic. And also, I could, within this supernatural fable, kind of tell that story that moved me so much about the kid that communicates and then retreats. That could be part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And it just blended perfectly. Then of course I didn't want to hide behind the fact that it's a supernatural story to like make it easy for myself and just have complete liberties with something that's a very real dilemma for many parents and a real situation. So I did a lot of research, talked to parents. Of course it's hard to get access because people are very protective of nonverbal autistic children because they don't know what it's hard for them to say yes or no to stuff, these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So but we did get access to observing some of them and being in the same room and whatever. And of course you have documentaries, you have talking to people, you have specialists, you have all that. I just wanted it to be done with respect and
Mm-hmm.
with enough detail so that those people who actually live it don't feel that we are taking too many liberties with something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Well, I really like the setting of this story as well as kind of this apartment building that kind of allows for a lot of different sorts of characters to be in one space. Have you ever lived in an apartment building like what we see in the film? And how did you decide where this story would take place?
It's exactly that. I lived in a place similar to this when I was a kid for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and I still remember that feeling of being, you're in your apartment and your parents are there or next door, or you go out to the communal areas and there's always some adult there. and then you could just go like 100 yards to the right and you're in the middle of the forest
Mm.
and no one's watching,
Yeah. Wow.
suddenly, and there you can just be alone, you can play your games with your friends, or you can experiment. It's like you have civilization over there, and right next to it you have Lord of the Flies, and you
Mm.
live Lord of the Flies for like a few hours and you go home
Hmm.
when you're hungry and want to have dinner, and that
Hmm.
contrast seems so rich and visual and interesting. So we were looking for places like that
Mm.
to shoot in.
Yeah. Very interesting. I think we have time for one more question. I was just curious about working with young actors. You get some really remarkable performances. What was it like? First of all, was this your first time working with children so extensively, and what was it like working with them on set?
It was my first time to work with kids in like lead roles.
Mm.
So the thing was just I knew it was going to be difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of written myself into a corner here. I knew that. I never worked with kids and animals, and here we
Right.
are with four small kids and a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So we just needed time. So
Mm-hmm.
luckily, I worked with a great producer, and she agreed with me that we needed time and money for the casting. So we spent over a year finding the kids, working with them, getting them to trust us, feeling that they really could do it, and giving them the tools to be real actors,
Mm-hmm.
and never like trick them to get real reactions, making them feel safe. And it was great. I mean, they were so professional from the first day. They were like delivering magic. Every
Mm-hmm.
day
Yeah.
I would go home from set saying, oh, I messed that up, I'm a bad director. But those kids, I just felt like they were giving me something I didn't deserve. They were so amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not true. Work with kids. Just use time to find the right
Yeah.
kids,
Mm.
but never work with a cat if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Cats are prima
Kids,
donnas.
yes. Cats, no. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think that's all the time we have. It's been a pleasure talking with you
Great
today.
talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah.